I hear that it's a myth that running is bad for your knees.
Yeah. How many Olympic trials have you done?
I've done 5 Olympic trials,
Wow.
3 worlds, and I'm going to do my 30th Prefontaine.
I'll do it. So I got up, I trained for 45 minutes, I went down and I ran in the first ever Corvallis half marathon.
Nice.
And I learned so much.
You saw Jesus, didn't you?
I did.
The closer we get to that, the more we're probably reducing our forces.
Yeah, when you said 180 steps a minute, that made me a little tired.
Is that how you run? Whether you're chasing a PR or just trying to make it around the block without pain, this episode's for you. Let's hit the ground running.
What happens when a chiropractor and a physical therapist get together to make a health and wellness podcast?
But chiropractors and physical therapists don't like each other.
Oh, think again.
I'm Dr. Kathy Lynch, physical therapist who likes to help people move and get stronger.
I'm Dr. Jason Young, an evidence-based chiropractor who uses humor just as much as adjustments to help people get better.
Welcome to the Pitch Podcast.
Remember, there's no I in pitch. That is super.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Yeah.
Robyn's a native Montanan where she got her bachelor's degree in athletic training and physical therapy. Go Grizz.
Okay.
She also got her master's degree in sports medicine from the University of Oregon.
Go Ducks.
That's right. Go Ducks. I can say it. Jason can't. She has over 30 years of experience as a PT and athletic trainer working with all types of people, but specializes in working with runners. She's worked many USATF championships, which she will get into with us today. She has also been a consultant with Nike and worked with many U of O student athletes, but I'm lucky to call her friend and mentor. Thanks for being here, Robyn.
Yeah, so
Yes.
awesome. We're glad
Thanks
to have
for
you.
having me.
Yeah. Great.
Can I start out with
Please.
a bit of a question? So so this, first of all, is one of our very most requested shows. People are like, get a running expert on there. We want to hear about running because there's so much, people are like, is it bad for you? Is it good for you? And everybody has opinions. So when I was talking about this with my family last night, one of my family members, she asked me to not tell you that it's my oldest daughter.
Who's going to law school.
Yes, exactly.
So-
This is her question. Why do people get shin splints and it feels like you're going to simultaneously puke, pass out, and poop yourself all at the same time? So you don't have to answer that right now, but just sometime during the episode.
Oh my gosh.
If you would speak to that, that would be great. And when I mentioned that you were here, she says, "Oh, she specializes in misery." No.
I'm nice after 5.
No, we're glad to have you here.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Hey, will you fill us in on the journey, how you got here?
Certainly, yeah. So I was an athletic trainer at the University of Montana, and the team I worked with was a track and field team. And so I was lucky enough to see a job here back in 1988, advertised with the sports medicine doc who was the guru in Eugene. He actually had a Corvallis connection, too.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's all right.
Yeah. So anyway, at the time in Eugene, probably 100 plus world-class athletes were training there under Athletics West.
Crackdown USA, right?
Crackdown USA.
Mm-hmm.
And for some strange reason, I got the job when I interviewed with him, and partly because I did orthotics and I had a love of foot.
Mm-hmm.
And so in 1988, I came out and moved here, and kind of ever since then, running has been my passion and my love as far as the biomechanics. And trust me, at the end of the day, a runner that weighs $125 is a lot easier to work on than a 275 football player.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
longevity-wise, it's been great. And the fun part about running is you have, sprint biomechanics, which are totally different than long-distance biomechanics, different than, say, like a triathlon.
Mm-hmm.
So you see a variety of different injuries at each kind of skill level, and then you see a whole different variety of things at different levels as far as just beginners to elites and stuff. So it's a constant fun array of disaster that I get to unpack and fix and then help people experience the joy of moving in their body.
Oh, that's outstanding. And so we have a half marathon here in Corvallis. It goes right by my house, and so we're out there every year, ringing our cowbells and everything. Our neighbors hate us. We're so sorry. None of them are listening. And One of the things that's amazing, though, is there's so many different ways to run, and they all look incorrect to me. So that's got to take a lot of like kind of knowledge and understanding, because aren't there a lot of right ways to run?
Well, what's really interesting is that, if we take, for instance, shoes, they did a 900 runners. They looked at putting them in different shoes. And no matter what shoe they put them in, they still had a preferred path of movement. And that was the bottom line, that there's a preferred path of movement. Now, whether that preferred path of movement is biomechanically efficient, usually the answer is no, and thank you, because I will be able to continue making a living.
So when you say preferred path of movement, you're talking about everybody runs the way they run.
Meaning that you could put them in an anti-pronation shoe, and if they're a pronator, they're going to pronate.
Still pronate.
And part of it is you haven't leveled up the system yet.
This is the magic.
Level up.
Yeah. So, again, garbage in, garbage out. What's the start posture? Has there been any education in helping people understand what the start posture should be for their foot, all the way up to their pelvis, and then, helping them understand how to support and build that so they can have a better movement pattern. So, and most of the time too, we have to break out where people are asymmetrical, because that's the big killer. Is if you're asymmetrical in some manner, you're guaranteed to have an injury. It's just going to catch up with you, whether you do too intense a speed workout, if you do too much long distance or hills, somewhere it's going to come out if you keep pushing that envelope. So being able to help break out where we have mobility, stability issues, which are usually different on each side, because, again, oftentimes we have a pattern that's either, a left stance pattern or a right stance pattern, meaning that one side's going to have an issue with loading and the other side's going to have an issue with push-off.
Okay.
So, and they'll be fine in the other alternative pattern. So if you give them the same exercises bilaterally and say, hey, I want you to do this bilaterally, they may look better in their 501s, but they still got the same dysfunction when they go out and they run and move. So, it's not about...
I think she got a degree in 88.
Hey, man, they're still around.
They are.
I didn't say hash jeans, which was more like...
Oh, my gosh.
Which you don't even know what that is.
Hush puppies,
So I just took another class from Robyn. I think I've taken like as many as I can.
Oh, man.
Until they stop letting me go. And this one was about...
Ma'am. You're going to need to sit down in the front, please.
This one was about the fascial chain with runners. And I thought it was really interesting. She kind of started the class off, and I was hoping that she could kind of clarify it and kind of dumb this down for us.
Yeah.
What she said.
Talk to me like I'm 10.
What she said was joints move, muscles react, and fascia thinks.
Yes, exactly. So I can't remember where I big bone stole this quote from, but I think it was Wolf. So, but don't quote me on that. Yeah. But anyway,
like Wolf's Law? Wolf?
Not Wolf's Law. No, it was another individual.
Wolf.
But anyway, what it means is essentially, forces are what create movement in our body. So the two biggest forces that are the easiest to understand is gravity acting down through our body. And we see this in, say, like an older person who's flexed forward and, they've got that hunched over posture. Yeah. And we can see, which way their propensity is for how their body is moving. So as runners, obviously, we don't want to have that, but we have gravity acting down through our postures. And then when our foot hits the ground, then we have ground reaction force happening. So as a result of that, our bones begin to move. And then our muscles are what actually react to that movement by deciding, do I decelerate that or do I accelerate it? Most of the time, they have to decelerate that motion and then control it for a second and then reaccelerate it the other way. But sometimes we get stuck with thinking that, oh, it's really just all about the muscles. Right. And again, they're really more slaves to the joints. Because again, if a joint, for instance, is, a little off kilter and it's not in a position where it's centrated, then again, you're going to get a whole different story about what muscles show up if the forces around that joint aren't stabilized. So you may think you're getting, a great butt when you're doing all those bridges, but you may lack hip extension and you may just be building in a piriformis syndrome or a hamstring. So again, understanding that, whatever request you're making for a muscle, that joint has to be able to provide that mobility for you. So
man, so how do you address this with somebody? Because it's like, what I found is if I try and like fix people's gait, just even walking, I'm like, hey, think about this and think about this. And when they start thinking about it, like that's when all the wheels come off, right? Because it's like you said, people have this preferred path that they move through. And so how do you alter somebody's preferred path if it's kind of what they want to default to? How do you do that without having them like overthink their run or their walk or anything like that?
Yeah, certainly. Well, if I've done my job and I've cleared up all the mechanical dysfunctions so I know the system can do what I want it to do, then what we do is we start with control. Can you control in the sagittal plane? And explain to them what that sagittal plane is.
But so explain to our listeners what a sagittal plane is.
Sagittal plane is if you think about just moving forward.
Okay.
If you lift your knee up towards your chest, that's flexion. If you
Tom Cruise plane.
Yeah, Tom plane.
Okay.
So, but it's more important for the pelvis. And the pelvis, you've got to be able to control the pelvis in the sagittal plane because it's got to support 70% of your body weight.
So you're talking, when you say that, you're talking about the pelvis tilting forward or the pelvis tilting back?
You got it.
Okay.
Thank you. And with us sitting so much more, we have a tendency for the pelvis or bucket to tip forward. And if the bucket is tipping forward, then again, we're not supporting all that weight above, and it's going to totally change which biomechanics we have down below. So Jacqueline Perry said like probably 75% of what happens to the lower extremity is dictated by what the passenger unit is doing. So that becomes a real important part. So we look at, can you understand that sagittal plane first with the pelvis? Do we own those motions? And then we move to the next plane. So we might work on one step.
Okay.
We might step forward and go, can you maintain that posture the right way? This is the checklist I want you to feel. Did you feel that? So we kind of start to break it down a little bit so they have time to, again, evaluate, did I go from bad to better? And that's what I try and get them to understand, is you can't do multiple steps because you're not able to keep track of what you did. But can you look at one repetition and ask yourself, did I go from bad to better without judgment? If you can do that without judgment, then you're open to continue to learn and critique and get better at that motion. Did I land in a stable foot position? Which we will talk about as far as a tripod position. Where was the bucket? Was it stacked? And we just kind of build from there, and it becomes something that, it's easy that they can implement throughout the day. And I do a lot of exercises like, if you're going to the bathroom, do this exercise 5 times. We're going to do it 4 to 5 times, but we're just going to do it 4 or 5 reps. And I just want you to, we've got to make this your default, because if you don't have a great start posture, you're not going to have an athletic posture when you want it.
You're just really breaking it down.
Breaking it down and having them feel it and being able to, I can't continue on the path if they don't understand the initial building block.
So you talked about the pelvis tilting forward and back. I know that there's people now that are thinking, okay, so what are the problems that I get if I'm tilting my pelvis forward when I'm running? Or like, what are the problems I'm going to see if I'm tilting it back? Like, how's that going to show up for somebody from the standpoint of, now I need help?
Yes, certainly. Yeah. So the interesting thing is that we have to talk a little bit about breathing, and we actually have a device called the diaphragm. We have 2 diaphragms.
I think I got one of those.
You got at least one.
But she says I have 2.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. And the left is a little less efficient than the right.
Okay.
The right's got a nice liver, so it can lounge on the liver.
Liver.
There's a
and
liver.
The left, all of us people, us people in the Northwest have big hearts, so that heart is pushing down on that left diaphragm. And so what it ends up doing is the left diaphragm's kind of a pansy. It doesn't really like to breathe. And
I've heard that.
Your diaphragms do both breathing and stabilization. And so the left diaphragm will go, I'll just stabilize. So it has a tendency to create that anterior tilting of the pelvis on the left side. Now, what that means.
So the pelvis is tilting because the diaphragm, which is underneath the rib cage for people who don't know about diaphragm.
Yeah.
So that's controlling where my pelvis is.
So
it's all connected, man.
Yeah.
It's all connected.
Your diaphragm attaches down into the lumbar spine. And of course, its besties are, wait for it, psoas and QL.
Yes.
And they all attach together at the central tendon of the diaphragm.
We're going to do a whole episode about hip flexors.
Yeah. So these besties, all feed into that pattern of the pelvis being tilted anteriorly. So essentially what happens is that left side then becomes like it's stuck in swing phase.
Yeah.
And so you're not good at loading. So you get all those lateral issues like IT band on the left side, you get ankles, sprains. You may end up having some plantar fasciitis issues, foot issues as far as metatarsalgia, bunions. All those kind of things can happen because, again, you're stuck in swing phase and you can't really load. Well, the opposite tends to happen on the right side. That side tends to be really stable. So it likes that posterior tilt. And it has a hard time, as I'd like to say, throwing the ball to the other side. It tends to, hog the ball. Yeah. When it does throw the ball, it throws it really poorly.
Yeah.
And so the left side, again, fails to commit to loading. And then if you don't commit, we know how that ends up.
That's not going to be pretty.
It's not pretty. Yeah.
Kathy, she's a lot smarter than I am.
I told you this was going to be fun. Yeah, why do you think I take every class she teaches?
I guess so, right?
And so can you.
I need to take some classes, I know.
So can you. Yeah. Let's circle back. Okay. I met Robyn when I took her first class with her, but I've also had the privilege to stand next to her while she treats athletes at the the Olympic trials.
Because you've done that. You've treated athletes at the. How many times have you done it?
I've done the Olympic trials twice. And that's why we want to talk to Robyn, because I've watched her treat athletes on the table. They go in and they either practice or they compete, and they come back and they're like, that's the farthest I've thrown the hammer. And yeah, I've seen it with my eyes. So how many Olympic trials have you done?
I've done 5 Olympic trials, 3 worlds, and I'm going to do my 30th Prefontaine.
30th?
Yes. 30th in a few weeks.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's pretty amazing.
That's when the Prefontaine was like the wild, wild west.
Yes. Steve was at that one, right?
Just about.
Yeah, just about. So you're pretty much a fixture there then. Yeah. People show up and they're looking for Robyn Pester.
They actually do. Okay. Is Robyn here this year?
They're like, hi, who are you? And you're like, I'm Kathy. And they're like,
no.
Get out of my way. Where's Robyn?
Yeah. Do you know Robyn? Yes, I do.
That's great.
Yeah. So it's pretty fun.
So is it even exciting for you anymore to do these things? You're like, Prefontaine, okay.
It always is. For me, at this point, it's always one of the things I love the most is the people who are doing their last Olympic trial. And I love helping them succeed more than they thought they could because I give them, an ending to their story. That's good.
That's cool. Yeah. Can you tell us about like maybe one person that maybe that was a meaningful?
Yeah, definitely. Last year, this gal hops on my table, Loretta, and I kept calling her Rachel because I have an aunt named Rachel and Loretta.
Oh, really? Okay.
And so anyway, I liked Rachel a little bit better than Loretta.
I'm sorry. Well, she's not listening. I was going to apologize if she was listening, but she's not.
Closed her eye. Okay.
All right. Fair enough.
So anyway,
Rachel,
she hops on my table, and she's a high jumper. And anyway, she had only competed in one meet to get into the trials because she'd basically retired. She missed in 12 and 16. She had had various injuries in the posterior kinetic chain. 20, she just passed. So, I mean, it'd been a while since she competed, but her coach said, I think you can do it. Why don't you compete one more time? So she managed to get the qualifier, ends up on my table. Her ankle is a hot mess.
Oh, no.
Syndesmosis sprain. It's just a hot mess.
And so it was a hot mess and she knew it.
Somewhat, but not to the degree.
Not enough. Maybe that was
so I've got a few little tricks in my bag.
Because there's a difference between an athlete being like, oh yeah, I'm good, I can go, I can do it. But then like you look at it biomechanically and it's like, you're going to have trouble.
Yeah,
right?
You're leaking energy like crazy. Yeah.
Okay,
So anyway, she hops on my table. We do some pre-work, tune her up over the next couple days before she's ready to compete. She goes out and competes, and she ends up getting in a jump off with like 3 or 4 other people.
A jump off?
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
And so long story short, she manages to make it through the jump off because they only take 8 to the final. And so anyway, there's a couple days in between, so we tune up, we keep working on stuff, and then she comes back for her final kind of tune up, and she's walking towards me, and we're talking, and I'm looking at her jacket, and I'm like, "Is that a ladybug?" And I go, "That's a ladybug. Those are good luck."
Oh.
So I look it up, and I show her on my phone. She goes out and competes, and comes back, and she got 8th in the country.
Oh my gosh.
8th in the country.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
That's pretty
You were
amazing.
training her mind,
Yeah.
body, and spirit.
Yeah. So I ended up creating a program for her when she went back home and making sure you got well and took care of that issue. But those are oftentimes some of the fun experiences of, it just doesn't end after the meet, but, giving them that additional support that they've been missing because they haven't had somebody that could diagnose their problem and stuff. So, yeah.
And are you a runner yourself?
I am. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you ever get injured?
Funny you should ask.
That's how I keep learning new stuff.
Oh, well, this doesn't work. No.
I like to say I grew up on the prairie, so it's not natural to run because there aren't a lot of things that chase you.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Good point.
So,
Yeah, that's kind of my running philosophy. Run if you're being chased.
Okay.
Actually, I did a half marathon. Well, I've done a few half marathons, and I know I'm built like a half marathon.
Usain Bolt is what I was
Yeah.
thinking more sprinter.
Yeah, well, my people are not Kenyan. I'll put it that way. I mostly run out of spite, right? Just to prove to people. The very first time I ever ran a half marathon, I was in bed one Sunday morning, and I get a call from one of our massage therapists, and he sounds awful. He's like, "Dr. Young, I can't run in the half marathon. Do you want my bib?" And I was like, Joe, I don't run. Like I never run. I'm not a runner at all. I don't enjoy it or anything like that. He's like, I know, I've just called other people and nobody wants it. And so I just thought that I'd call you up. And so I'm like, well, hang on. I rolled over and I said to my wife, I was like, hey, man, you cool with me running a half marathon today? She said, what? Just as long as you're done by the time it's time to go to church. And I was like, all right, cool. So I said, all right, dude, I'll do it. So I got up, I trained for 45 minutes, I went down and I ran in the first ever Corvallis half marathon.
Nice.
And I learned so much.
You saw Jesus, didn't you?
I did. I
Jesus, this hurts.
I saw all of them. No, but I learned that like at first it was really fun. I'm out there and I'm running. Like it's kind of a social thing. I was like, I could be a runner. This is all right. And then the first downhill came and I was like, no, this is not all right. That's when I learned that you can keep running even though you have a cramp. And then I learned that you could have a cramp in each leg and you can keep running, but it requires that you cry. And I learned how to run while saying swear words in my heart. And but it was interesting because I learned some things about my body and my limits. Because I got to the end and I had a cramp literally every muscle group of my legs. And I had probably about a half mile to go. And we're running into Research Stadium.
Oh, yeah.
And I was just like, this is so, I said it out loud. This is so stupid. This is dumb. I'm so close here and I can't walk at all. So I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to sprint.
Oh my
So
goodness.
I was like, all right, I'm going to sprint. So I start sprinting. There's people who are stopping to check on me and I'm running by. I'm like, get out of my
There
way.
it is.
And I made it down in there and there's a picture of me somewhere with I've got ice packs taped to my legs and I'm sitting in church.
And this is why I don't cover
Yeah.
meets like that or events like that.
Exactly. You're a little bit above that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then the last thing that I ran in, I ended up running in Hood to Coast. I was still not a runner. Yeah. And that was literally the last time that I physically ran. It was
to know.
6-7 years ago. Yeah. But so it's there's people that love running and it's their therapy and everything like that. There's people that absolutely hate it. Why do you think that why do people hate running? And how would you take somebody who maybe is having a terrible experience running and how could they have a good experience? What are maybe some things that they could change that would make it better for them?
Yeah, I think one of the things that's kind of misunderstood is that you can run to get into shape. You should really get into shape and then run.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think you need to have a certain amount of skill sets, as far as strength, mobility before you consider running. Otherwise, it's just going to feel miserable.
Yeah.
Gotcha. This is like the burpees.
Right?
Yeah.
There you go. Don't do the burpee.
And then I think, really having a game plan as far as really looking at things and going, okay, I want to get better at this. Which system is going to limit me first? Breathing.
Okay.
Breathing's going to limit you first. So if you can't nasal breathe, then you're going to walk. So you run
Gotcha.
as long as you can nasal breathe. And then when you can't nasal breathe, You walk, because one of the things we know is that as you fatigue your inspiratory muscles, meaning the diaphragm again, because we already called it out as being a pansy, is that you get an increased risk of injuries because you not only does it not like to breathe, then it's definitely not stabilizing. So it would rather breathe than stabilize.
So if I could be a better breather, I could be a better runner.
Yes,
you could. So
that's a good place to start.
That's a great place to start, and going out and walking and you may start to do a little bit of run, and then see when you start to lose your coordinated breath and then go back to walking. So it may take you a little longer, but you're going to get to where you need to be quicker if you understand you train for respiratory first, then the muscular system.
So how do I do that? Like, how do you train for respiratory? Just sit there.
Some of it, very good. I do like the heavy breathing.
Okay.
I appreciate the effort.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
I'm intuitive. So
very intuitive. Okay. Okay.
So, but we do a lot of stuff around breathing just because breathing is so important in regards to the deep front line, the diaphragm. So any cool kid who ever wanted to be on the core team is on the deep front line, and the diaphragm is the team leader of that.
Okay.
And so in all our exercises we're synchronizing that breath and understanding how that diaphragm works with the other two key domes, which are the foot dome and the pelvic floor dome. So we're doing a lot of those sort of things. Then we're also just looking at programs as far as how do you not get injured? Well, you want to kind of have a system. And one of the things I use with my athletes, whether they're coming back from an injury or if they're just trying to start out on not running for a while, is we use the traffic light. So the traffic light system framework is obviously, if you're green, that means go, right?
Yeah.
So that means, is your pain 0 to 3 out of 10 when you're running, and is it gone within 24 hours?
Okay.
So is it 4 to 6, which is going to be yellow, and 7 to 10?
So yellow means go faster. Right?
Yeah. So exactly.
Yellow means hurry up.
Yeah. So when we have some of those frameworks, then we're not, forced to listen to this thing, which is really domineering at times and misleads us a lot. So
it'll talk you out of doing a lot of things that you could.
Yeah.
And into doing some
really bad,
totally,
like a half marathon.
Wow.
With 45 minutes of training.
That is correct.
Yeah. That's amazing. I'm impressed that you finished that.
I spent most of that 45 minutes
You didn't make it to
breathing.
church.
Actually.
Did you make it to church?
I did make it to church.
Oh
yes.
my gosh.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because, like you said it, I saw Jesus. And so I was like, Jesus was like, you better get to church. Like, yes, sir.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
So,
all right, let's see if we can help out some of the recreational runners in town listening across the nation.
Yes.
To the Pitch Podcast.
Across all the town. in all the places.
Okay, common injuries you see in runners.
yeah, definitely. I mean, probably the knee and ankle and foot are the most common injury sites that we see a lot. And a lot of it is a result of, again, a little bit of overstriding. And it's really easy for people
Kind of reaching too far when you're running. Okay.
Yeah. So you want your stride to be longer in the back than in the front. And depending on a lot of postures that we get into, we can really create a posture that wants to facilitate more of that overstriding, which then results in a whole lot more braking action that we have to do. And
So what does that mean, braking action?
Decelerating, slowing that motion down.
Okay,
So,
gotcha.
Yeah. And so if we, again, kind of look at that oftentimes is an issue in regards to where are we landing on the ankle? The ankle is kind of like a ball bearing.
Yep.
Okay.
And so it dictates both posture and movement. And so if you're starting off-centered from that ankle pronated or supinated, the most common thing is pronation.
So, and for people who are listening, so pronation's when your foot is rotating in.
When your foot is rotating in.
Like in towards like
Your
the inside
arch.
of your knee.
Yeah.
And then supination is when it's kind of, you're running on the sides of your foot.
Yes.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So, again, if we're kind of pronated again, that's going to lead to a lot more injuries because we're going to get stuck. We need to have that ankle joint be able to kind of be the place that we're steering forces from rather than just crashing into the ground and getting stuck there.
Don't want to pound your ankles.
Exactly. So those are the common areas. So we can all sorts of things. So a lot of things are like patellofemoral pain, which is pain around your kneecap. It's often called runner's pain, runner's knee pain.
Yes.
You can have IT band syndrome, which is super common.
It's just right on the side of the thigh there. That IT
That's
band.
the ice pick in the knee, which is quite enjoyable.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you've ever had it, yes, I've had that.
Well, and I hear it's a myth. We're jumping to the myth busting.
Yeah, let's go. Let's myth bust.
But I hear that it's a myth that running is bad for your knees.
Yeah.
So,
I think Kathy told me.
I did tell you that. Yeah, it's a myth. There's a study out there.
So, but the knees are a commonly injured area, but at the same time, running isn't necessarily bad for your knees.
No.
Make that make sense.
Yeah. So if we look at in overall runners versus non-runners, runners tend to be healthier than non-runners.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that group as a...
Oh, wait, I'm a non-runner. Why am I ding, ding, dinging?
Ding, winner. No.
Okay.
So if you're just looking at subgroups, they tend to have less knee pain than people who don't move their bodies in that. So now we can eliminate that knee pain in runners simply by increasing their cadence by 5 to 10%.
Okay, so what's cadence?
Cadence is how many steps we take in a minute.
Okay.
And so...
so running quicker?
So, yes, yeah.
Okay.
So oftentimes we find that if you're running too slow, that means you're having to absorb more forces into your body. Oh. And so you absorb more forces, then, again, they're going into you rather than you storing that energy and then releasing it.
Is that because you're spending more time on the ground?
Yeah, I think Clydesdale versus leopard.
Ah, got you. So I want to skip across. Oh, shoot. I'm sorry. I touched the microphone, Scott. Don't kick me out. But so we want to just
glide.
Less time in contact with the ground means less impact on the joints.
Exactly. So we decrease how high we go up. See, every time we take a step, it's like a little mini jump up and down. So we're decreasing that, and we're going to decrease those braking forces. We also know that the tendon itself has this kind of magical resonance, how much it vibrates. And so 180 steps per minute is kind of that sweet spot that helps the optimal kind of biomechanical component for that tendon. So the closer we get to that, the more we're probably reducing our forces.
When you said 180 steps a minute, that made me a little tired. I got a little sleepy.
So that's per the combination of both sides.
I need to do better breathing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
You got to start there. Start with breathing.
But most people are hanging out at 160.
Oh, really? Okay.
And that's way different when you're at 160.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So 180 is about where people want to be. And so if I wanted to measure that myself, like if I'm going out to run, how do I just count as I'm running and
so
set
there's
the watch?
A great little app called Run Tempo that's free.
Yeah.
You just go to the App Store. There's probably a lot of other ones. And then what you want to do is just figure out where you're starting at. You can't go from 160 to 180, but you can increase by 3.
Okay.
3 to 5 is probably a sweet spot, and kind of trying to increase that coordination. But it comes back to kind of where you're starting to go. It's your time to stabilization, how much time you spend on the ground. So getting more precise with that foot strike pattern in order to increase that time to stabilization. What is the arm swing doing? Because arm swing is a great way to change the cadence. If you're thinking about your feet, it can be very difficult. But if you're thinking about the back portion of your arm swing, that's what I try and get people to focus on. And I even have them practice that by getting the Run Tempo app, getting into a staggered stance, seeing which side they might feel less coordinated on, and then just swinging their arms to that tempo. So they're just standing in place, but they're starting to practice that. And then I also get them to kind of start saying a mantra. So I start to have them say quick, quick, light in sequence with that Run Tempo, and it helps them start to then entrain their brain. And then when you go out and you're actually telling your brain, quick, quick, light, your brain is assessing, well, was that quick? Was that light? What do I need to do different? Because we always want to have that feed forward corrective mechanism in place. Did you go from bad to better?
Yeah.
Just
and so giving them ways to tap into, oh yeah, that was better.
I like your mantra, because the first thing that came to my mind was too legit to quit. And it's that might keep me running, but it's not going to make me a better runner.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tell your brain what you want.
No.
Yes.
We like to say it's a lazy piece of meat, the operating system. So tell it what you want.
Yes.
Good.
So 180
That's a good
steps per minute is what I want. Start with the arms, and then Run Tempo is a good app to get, and it helps with that.
Yeah. You're not going to be, most people are not going to be right at 180, but, trying to get, at least to 175.
See, where were you when I did this half marathon? I could have called you and you would have said, listen, stand in one place, fix your breathing first. Quick, light, move your arms, and don't run a freaking half marathon today, you dummy. You could have told me all those things.
Well, I always say you got to go slow to go fast. And
Yes.
if you take the time to create the foundation, and if you really are in this for the long run, then you're going to run these little miles that you need to run. And some of those little miles are practicing your posture so you can stand strong, run strong, start strong. You know, you're going to take your time to coordinate your breathing. So, and if you buy into, I got to go fast to go strong, you're not going to get injured. So
intriguing.
How does a runner know if they're overstriding, understriding, striding correctly?
Yeah. So ideally we want to kind of look at, again, I oftentimes just have them practice a little bit, like taking a normal walking stride and then seeing how quick can you go to time to stabilization.
Okay.
So giving them an idea, and what we're kind of really looking at, is there a gap between right and left? I'm always coaching them to look for gaps. Do you have a gap in mobility? Do you have a gap in your stability? Do you have a gap in time to stabilization? It's these gaps that are going to take you down.
Wait, what was that last one?
Stabilization.
Time to stabilization.
Time to stabilization.
Time to stabilization. How quickly can you transfer all load to one leg and be perfectly still and stable?
Ah, okay.
Most runners, if you have them do a single leg squat, they're a hot mess. And you're like, how?
By runners, do you mean people?
Yeah.
I'm always thinking, how can you possibly run as many miles as you do and not be injured or only partially injured?
It's almost like they're continuously falling and catching themselves rather than actually running. Right?
That's exactly what it is.
Exactly.
Wow, this is so intriguing. Like, I don't love running, but
now
like I'm listening to you and I want to try this stuff out at night when nobody can see me. Right.
Should ask Mandy.
Well, it would make everybody a better athlete, and the same principles apply to no matter what you're doing, is being able to control
and running's
loading.
so important. Like, okay, I'm gonna call out my son, partially because my wife asked me to.
Oh.
She's like, you have to talk about what a terrible runner he used to be. So like my wife is white, I'm black, okay? And so our kids are mixed, and because that's how that works.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, that's how it works.
Thank you for that.
That's how it works. If anybody was wondering, okay. So all my kids are athletes. My oldest son, he is like the slowest fast person you've ever met. Like he's late to everything, right? But when he's a really good athlete. And when he was younger, like we'd see him playing basketball and stuff like that. And he would run, and I can't even adequately describe, but he would run and he'd do this weird thing with his arms down here. And I was like, that is not my people. That is not my people. My wife threatened to send him to like get sprinting lessons. But now this kid is like lightning fast. So, he swings varsity for baseball and he's in there running bases because he's very, very fast. And so, she first of all wanted me to call him out publicly on this because punking your kids is fun.
Yes.
But she also had a question about speed. Are people just born fast or can you become fast? Because that kid was pretty slow. And now people are like confused. Like, how'd you get so fast? Because he has no training. So like, what do you think about that? Are you born fast or slow? How can you develop that over time?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I mean, we do.
She's a smart lady, my wife. So.
We do have type slow or slow type fibers and fast twitch fibers, and then we do have some that haven't decided yet.
Okay.
So we have those that can transfer either way depending on our training. So depending on what type of training he got, that might have helped improve him.
He didn't have any training.
There's also speed windows too, especially in rotational sports where. If you want to make a better athlete, you take advantage of those speed windows and put them into anything rotational that they can possibly do. Like, if you want them to be a golfer, put them in everything, hockey, tennis, everything.
Gotcha.
So when those speed windows close, then, it doesn't matter if the kid can hit the ball straight. If you can't hit it far, the kid who probably can hit it far, but it's a hot mess, is going to be a better athlete. So kind of knowing how different systems mature can help you steer your child into the best sport or help them be more successful and stuff. So.
I think he was going to Helix training during his speed training window.
I was just thinking, I was like, wait, he did get training because you trained him.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. This white lady here trained my son how to run. Yeah, well, you did great.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of coaches at
We're proud of
CHS
Austin,
that are just so happy that you got him during his. You called it a speed window.
Yeah.
And so
certain places when we're maturing
so my speed window is shattered.
Closed, man.
It's like
Close
it's closed. I'm done. I'm as fast as I'm going to be, which is great because I'm incredibly fast.
You reached your peak.
Oh, if I was any faster, like speeding ticket, I drive.
Yes.
You mentioned shoes earlier, but is there a way, because I know this is going to be a question, what's the best way to pick a shoe for a runner?
So right now, we have to be a little bit careful because the shoe industry goes through trend cycles. And right now, it's all about cushion.
Yeah.
Cushion is the new sexy word.
Your Hokas, your Ultras.
Carbon plate is the new sexy thing.
Right.
And so we really need to be careful about these, shoe trends, just because, when we start to look at more cushioning, one of the things we know is most of the proprioceptors for the foot are right on the heel. And so you start to have more cushion with the shoe. One of the things they found was two things. They found that if you had a shoe that it was higher in the back and lower in the front, so a bigger drop. Those people were 2 times more likely to sustain a running injury. And they were also more sucky at knowing where their foot was at in space.
That makes sense,
So their proprioception was decreased. So those proprioceptors in our foot respond to vibration. And if you take away all that vibration, then that fascia system, which is, connecting us from our head to toe, doesn't get the right. Yeah, the thinking part doesn't get the information. And so what then ends up happening is instead of the fascia taking more of the load, we end up having to have the muscle do more of the load because the fascia missed the bus. So now the muscle, which is a higher maintenance system, then has to do more of the work. Whereas if we are able to take advantage of that proprioception, then essentially what they kind of think is the muscles can more isometrically contract and modulate that force a little bit for us, and the force goes through the fascia.
Okay, so can you explain for people who have no clue what fascia is, what that is, just real quickly?
Yeah, fascia is kind of that webbing that covers our muscles and just about everything, and it covers organs, it's underneath your skin, it connects us from head to toe. And it's a very sophisticated system that allows us to know what's going on a lot faster than our nervous system. In fact, the fascia reports information at 720 miles an hour, so faster than the speed of sound. Whereas our nervous system is around 200 miles per hour.
Okay.
So it's really the system that, we want to have responsive because it's going to get us out of, hot situations. Whereas the nervous system is, hey, I tried. Should have called me sooner.
The nervous system shows up. It's like, what happened here?
Yeah.
What happened?
What a mess.
Bro, you're late.
What a mess.
You're late. You're slow.
What did I miss? Everything.
So anyway, going back to the shoes, we really have to begin by looking at, if somebody has a, like a total knee or something, maybe we do want to have more cushioning. Maybe that makes sense, but can we put something in the shoe? And one of the things I love is the Nabasa insoles. So you have another proprioceptor in your foot that is able to sense, what's called 2-point discrimination. So what that is, your brain can tell that, there's 2 points, not 1 point. So it's a sophisticated little way of doing that. And see, these insoles have little bumps on them. So they really wake your feet up. So we are all of a sudden providing at least additional sensory information. If we're taking away some sensory information, maybe we can offer something in return. And so, those are some of the things we want to kind of look at. We want to make sure also with the shoes, what's happening in regards to, say, the top of the toe. Does it spring? Okay.
Right.
One of the things we know about the foot is so much of the energy has to go through that forefoot. That forefoot takes about 60% of the body weight. And if you're taking away the ability for that muscle system to function and work by giving it a free spring, it's going to start to atrophy.
Okay.
And if you start to atrophy in that, you're going to end up having all those push-off issues like plantar fasciitis, bunions, posterior tib tendonitis, all those things up the chain. So kind of going,
it's all connected.
How much do we need to correct for with the shoe? Can we level up their foot mechanics? Can we teach them what tripod is? Those sort of things. And then one of the other big things I love is I look at what can we do outside of your running shoes. And so the research currently shows that getting somebody in more of a minimalistic shoe reduces falls,
the barefoot,
reduces falls in nursing homes, improves strength in middle-aged people. So, I love a shoe called the Paluva. It's by Mark Sison, and it's kind of a very much evolved kind of Vibram. It looks like a tennis shoe with all 5 toes, but it's much more supportive. And so trying to get, like 3,000 steps a day in that shoe can really improve your foot biomechanics. Not necessarily running in it, because, you can't do that if you don't have the foot strength.
Sure. I'm learning their steps.
There's steps.
You don't just get out of bed and run a half marathon.
No.
You got to go from bad to better.
Yes.
That takes steps.
I should have gone from bad to back to bed.
Yeah. Probably.
Yeah.
It might be time for a game.
I think so. We're running right up against it here. So, all right,
Let's
game.
go.
I'm so excited for this game.
I don't know.
I'm a little worried. I'm a little worried.
I'm going to pit one physical therapist. I'm going to pit one physical therapist against another here. Okay, so we're going to play.
Spoken like a true Cairo, trying to create friction.
This is a running trivia game. Okay? Now, before, she's clearly an expert. You're very, very good, and I'm like nowhere near in the ballpark on this. But you're going to be able to hang with this. So, given your background as a college basketball player, I got you. That's your buzzer. Okay,
that's my buzzer. Right. Okay.
Yes, and given your affiliation with the other school down south.
Yes.
Okay. So you will buzz in. All right. And in this trivia game, here's the main rule. You have to wait till I read the whole question. You'll probably know the answer before then. But if you buzz in early, you can't answer. The other person automatically gets the answer. Okay.
I know. Okay, it works.
All right, good. Okay, so I have these trivia questions. Wait until I finish.
Okay.
First person to buzz in gets to answer the question, okay? Now, all of these questions have the word run in the answer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So if you give an answer and it doesn't contain some form of the word run, your answer's wrong.
What is run?
Okay? All right, so we're gonna go with the first one here. Okay, are you ready?
Totally.
Let's start it out easy here. Okay, this popular rap group teamed up with the rock band Aerosmith to record the hit "Walk This Way."
Run DMC.
That is correct.
I think her buzzer didn't work.
1 point for Kathy. Oh, did you try? Yeah. Okay. Live and learn. Live and learn.
Yeah.
You got to start with your diaphragm. That's a good place to start.
Yep.
You should try some breathing first. I got to get the score here. Robyn. So that's 1 point, Kathy. Okay. Very good. Let me put a little check mark next to this. Okay. How about this one? This 1993 hit by Soul Asylum was both a chart topper and a public service announcement featuring real missing children in its music video.
Soul Asylum.
Going.
Nope. It's gone.
We're looking for Runaway Train. Runaway train, never coming back.
Oh, okay. All right. Now I was getting it.
All right. Here we go. Next one. You might say this to Tom Hanks if you saw him at an Alabama football game. Who was that?
Run. Oh, it's me.
Yeah. Okay. Go for it.
Run, Forrest, run.
Very good. Run, Forrest,
I'm not very good at this game.
All right, here we go.
The science nerds.
Okay, Robyn, we're going to get you on the board right here with this
one. Get me on the board, yeah.
If you have explosive diarrhea, you might tell people that you have this.
What? The runs. Okay.
Hey, Robyn, on the board. There we go.
Not
you got the runs. You're welcome.
I'm like, what? I got stuck on the visual.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. O.J. Simpson is famous for this.
Running the football?
Yes, he was a running back. We also would have accepted running from the police.
Well, I didn't think that was appropriate. I thought that one, but I'm like, I can't say that.
Okay, here we go. Next one. This 90s dance move simulated a person rhythmically sprinting while standing in place.
Running Man.
Okay, that's right. Yeah, you gotta tweet your duck. There we go. Good. All right, good. All right, so we got 3-2. Here we go. Next one. This best-selling novel by Khalid Hosseini follows the story of Amir, a boy from Kabul, and explores themes of redemption, betrayal, and yes, kite flying.
Oh, yeah. I remember that, but I can't.
Got the word run in it.
Got the word run in it. And I got nothing.
Gone. Kite runner.
Kite runner. I never would have gotten that.
Okay, here we go. This popular Christmas song is about a grandparent who is assaulted by an animal while walking home.
Grandma and the Reindeer song, right?
Hit the duck. There we go. We'll give it to you. Grandma got run over by a reindeer.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
This poultry-themed claymation movie based on The Great Escape featured Mel Gibson doing the voice to the main character named Rocky. Poultry-themed claymation movie based on The Great Escape.
Something
Got the
with
word run in it?
Chicken Run.
That's it.
Chicken Run?
You got Chicken Run. That's the name of the movie.
Is it really?
Yeah, I'll just stop you right there.
No. Really?
All right, we got a couple more. Here we go. Ready?
All
So
right.
Kathy's up by 1.
Okay.
Don't let her win, Robyn.
Sure she's not up by more?
Run her down. Okay. Hitting a ball over the wall in the outfield in a baseball game will earn you one of these.
Go ahead.
Home run.
Home run. That's correct. Okay. Here
I
we
was
go.
a half a sec
We got
behind.
3 more questions.
Just let me
An
win.
inside gag maintained between friends or coworkers can also be called this.
Inside gag.
An inside gag maintained between friends or coworkers can also be called this.
Running.
Oh. Got it.
Go ahead.
Running joke.
Running joke is correct.
She gave me the.
Okay. We're going to give Robyn half a point on
She
that
invited
one.
me down. So.
All right, here we go. All right. And people who suffer from rhinitis have this symptom.
Oh.
Runny nose.
Runny nose is correct.
Hey.
All right. And this last one is worth 10 points.
Okay.
Okay. So it's anybody's game still. Amateur fashion stylists and designers compete to craft the best possible clothes on this show, hosted by Heidi Klum.
The Runway Project. No.
Project Runway. We'll get that to you. All right. So, Robyn, you're our big winner. And thank you so much. I feel like we won.
Right.
We won by having her here.
Yeah, and for all the recreational runners out there who want her expertise,
Yes.
you go to her website, which is Runners Rehab Fix.
Or Robyn Pester PT.
Or Robyn Pester PT.
And we'll put it all in the show notes, too.
Yeah,
So,
she has a bunch of courses online for
Mhm.
recreational runners that people can tap into.
yeah. And hopefully, like, keep your eyes on the comments on this. We would like you to listen to our podcast. And I think if people want to ask questions or figure out how they connect with you, hopefully just leave it in the comments. We'll see if you can get you connected with Robyn. So.
Yeah, I love that. So
What a treat. I learned so
Right?
much.
I told you.
Yeah. I learned that I'm not as smart
No.
as I thought that I was.
No,
Yeah.
neither of us. Neither of us
That's the
are.
first thing I
it made
learned.
you have a life.
Yeah, right. And I think that I also learned that because I don't love running. It's not real comfortable. But I think that with some of the things that you shared, it's like you kind of gave me some keys as to how I could enjoy it more.
Mm-hmm.
And so, man, that was so helpful.
Yeah, it's great.
What kind of takeaways did you get, Kathy?
Well, I've taken 10 classes.
Okay. Nothing extra here. This is
This is no. I just love her philosophy in that it's a whole body. Running's a whole body situation,
Mhm.
right? We're not just chugging your legs up and down.
I am.
That is not how it works. That is not how it works.
Yeah, it doesn't work very well.
No, starts with breathing,
Yes.
and then you got to get your foot right.
Mm.
That's where it starts too. But it starts with the diaphragm breathing. And you got to have your foot right.
Outstanding. All right. Well, thank you so much, Robyn.
Thanks
we
so much for
appreciate
having
you.
me. I enjoyed it. So
It's fun.
Great.
Super fun.
So so that's it for us here on the Pitch Podcast today. I think there's just one more piece that we got to cover, and that is that there's no I in pitch.